Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
The standoff with Wicomico County Executive. Here's public calls for the council members to resign. Maryland Association of Counties is meeting in Ocean City with appearance by the new governor. Brian Russo goes inside the Eastern Correctional Institution with a philosophy program by Salisbury University. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. In our studio this afternoon is Greg Bassett, editor and general manager for the Salisbury Independent. And on the phone is Susan Canfor, a reporter for Coastal Point. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Don.
Hi, Don.
So, Greg, I want to first start with you and this week's county council meeting. There were two members of the public that castigated the council members. At issue, of course, is filling the two positions by the county executive, Julie Giuliano, with candidates that were already rejected by the county council. So let's first hear those two members of the public, and we're going to start with Wayne Cooper, who aimed his comments directly at Council President John Cannon.
So, Mr. Cannon, is at this time, due to all of the flagrant actions, I'm personally asking for you to step down as Council President. I would also greatly appreciate a resignation from you from this council altogether. You are the captain of this sinking ship. I feel your leadership is no longer needed, sir. This county needs new direction before you cost this county millions with yet even more battles with the executive.
And then there was Holly Wartell, at least as I heard her name, and she told the council members that if Giordano fails, it's their fault.
You obviously can't work with Madam County Executive. You have gotten your buddies who sit up here with you to go against anything and everything that the county executive is trying to do. Why? Because your friend lost to Julie? If she fails doing her job, it's yours, and yours fault. Because you're not giving her what she needs.
So, Greg, what are we to make of this pushback? And give us a little detail or background on exactly what's going on here.
You know, I have to say I've been covering news in that room for 35 years, and I've never heard citizens get up and demand the resignation of any of the members of the county council. There were some interesting times years ago, 2 decades ago with the city council, but for people to get up and look the council president in the face and then say that was very shocking to me. But it just shows where we are in terms of the county executive rallying her supporters and the council being resolute in its decision, and this all headed into a court setting.
So what are we looking at, by the way, in terms of the courts? Because it sounds as if that's where this is headed.
Yeah, so what now, the battle right now is whether the county executive, Julie Giordano, can hire an attorney to represent her point of view in a court of law with this hiring dispute with the council. Council maintains that she appointed people incorrectly in violation of the charter. She says she appointed them correctly within the charter, so that dispute is going to be heard by a judge. A judge in Garrett County has been assigned this. It's been moved out of our jurisdiction. Julie did ask for a quick decision on this thing, quick movement, and that judge said no, denied that, said it would be a routine decision. It would be done in a routine time manner. So we haven't heard what that timing will be, but it's not going to be quick. It's just going to be put on the court calendar.
By the way, is there any sense that she has any connection to these people who spoke? Or do we know? That
I don't know. The first man, the Cooper man who you mentioned first, he spoke at a previous meeting when she was there, so it seemed like there was some rapport between them, but I don't know that. What was also interesting, there were two people who spoke after those people who were there for other business and got up and just defended the council. One person was Maria Cook, who's well known in the community. She said, I support the county executive, but I think, I wish you all would get along, but, I don't think this kind of, incivility is necessary. That was her point.
So let's give listeners a sense about how the council members respond. I want to first start with Council Member Joe Holloway. He's probably the most conservative, I think, member of the council.
Shaney, thank you for your comments. When you say what you're thinking, if I said what I was thinking right now, I would probably not be welcome in this room. But anyway, the people that asked for a resignation up there, they think they're the first ones that did it. They're not. This has been going on for years. People get mad. They come up. Next thing you know, they come along and want your money. Right, John? And that's disappointing that, they'll put their hand out and want money, but they got a knife in the other one.
And, of course, there was the council president, John Cannon, who had his own response. I actually asked one of the speakers to calm it down, observe decorum.
Having no character or having no backbone is no part of this job. You have to be very thick-skinned, as Jeff had suggested here. So to try to suggest that there's a puppet up here or anything to that degree couldn't be any further from the truth. I'm not really a fan of such a political theater.
So, Greg, what does this say about the relationship between the county council and the county executive? I mean, I think earlier you had said it's irreparable.
Yeah, I did say that. I got in some trouble for saying that because there were some people who thought that it was too soon to be dismissive of that. But certainly, it's very fractured. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And again, this is sort of a sidebar soap opera drama. You could argue that. This is an internal dispute. It really doesn't speak to what needs to be done in terms of the county, the goals of the county. To ask for, a council member to resign because there needs to be new blood. There was just an election in November, so we've got 3.5 more years of this. There was some scuttlebutt in that room, the idea that there might be some sort of a petition drive to do a recall. I haven't heard that anywhere. I haven't seen any traction on that kind of thing. We did have one of those in Salisbury a bunch of years ago. But yeah, there's lots of things that need to be done in the county, and the county council and the county executive need to get along. The hope is that they can put this thing aside and still deal with each other on other issues.
So, Susan, I want to turn to you. About 3,000 are going to show up for the annual Maryland Association of Counties summer conference, and I understand also the new governor is going to be there along with his wife. What can you tell us about what we expect from the conference?
Yes, Don, the annual Maryland Association of Counties, or MACO convention, is in Ocean City this week. It started on Wednesday, and will continue through Saturday, when Maryland Governor Wes Moore will close the event by speaking to all the county leaders who are gathered in the resort. Governor Moore is Maryland's 63rd governor, and at 44 years old, he's a young governor and the first African-American governor in the history of Maryland. His wife, Dawn Moore, is the first African-American First Lady. She's a philanthropist, and her husband is a former TV producer, banker, and author. Also at the MACO conference, this year's keynote speaker will be the new president of the University of Maryland, Valerie Shears Ashby. And those attending will hear the governor speak. They'll see exhibitions at the Ocean City Convention Center. There will be a reception and panel discussions. Among the many high-level officials attending will be Senator Ben Cardin and also Senator Chris Van Hollen. And, of course, as with all major conferences and a popular resort, there will be some fun with receptions and walks on the beach, visits to the popular Ocean City Boardwalk, and local spots of interest. I will be there, Dawn. I'll be meeting Maryland's First Lady and interviewing her for your station, our station, and the governor. I'll also hope to meet him and get a few words from him. My understanding is that there are 2 children, 13 and 10 years old, are also coming to Ocean City. So it's expected to be a busy few days, educational, informative, and enjoyable weekend, talking to these Maryland leaders and also meeting with them on a more casual and friendly level. So we're looking forward to that.
I also understand that some of the discussion will certainly be about direct federal aid after the pandemic, because a lot of the aid that went into the local officials and the local districts have now disappeared because the pandemic, at least officially, is over. But they're looking for some more money, I guess.
That's my understanding, and the governor is supposed to he usually gives a last speech on Saturday morning, and he's supposed to mention that during that speech. So I will be there for that speech, and we'll certainly update you next week.
And the other thing, by the way, is I understand that Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes should be there, and although she's being replaced as a Speaker Pro Tem by Delegate Dana Stein.
Yes, she is supposed to be there, and I think there's some, if I'm not mistaken, she's going to be doing some fundraising as well. There will be some fundraising there at MACO, and the little article that I read about it, there are several articles that are like preview articles about the MACO convention, and one of them mentioned that she will be there, and she'll be doing some fundraising and challenging some other elected officials during her fundraising. So yes, we'll expect to see her there as well.
Yeah, we expect to maybe do her to do maybe a little lobbying to stay in that position, or do you think that's...
We know her well enough that she probably will. That's very, that would certainly fit with her personality and with what we've seen in the past with her. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Greg, I want to turn to you, talk about politics. We got city elections coming up at the end of this year. What are we looking at in terms of how the races are shaping up?
Yeah, the filing deadline is Tuesday in Salisbury. And so far there are, let me count, 4 people running for mayor. There's one council race that has a challenger, and the others do not have challengers as of yet, but there's still time to file. Election in November in Salisbury.
We also, I guess, in terms of the mayor, we've got Jermichael, I guess his name, Mitchell, and also Randy Taylor. Both of them. What do we know about them?
Yeah, so Jermichael Mitchell is a great community leader. He's led several groups. He's a former employee of the city. He's worked extensively with Black youth, so he is running. Randy Taylor is a former banker with M&T Bank. He's a contractor now. He flips houses, rebuilds houses. He did a renovation on a North Camden property many years ago that was sort of used as a tale of how you could rebuild one of the great old historic homes. It's kind of a federal style home in North Camden, and lives there. So people know him from that. They know him from his banking career. He owns one of the prominent buildings in downtown Salisbury, the old Thomas R. Young building, the music store that used to be there. He's talked about renovating that and making it a restaurant at some point. His concern right now is downtown parking and how these lots are going to be converted to development. So I think that's going to be the issue that he runs on. Our good friend Wayne King, who ran against Jake Day 4 years ago, he's back. He was a late filer. I don't think I've run into Wayne since he ran last time. So it'll be interesting to see what Wayne wants to run on this time. Last time he ran on a budgetary concern that the city was spending too much money on a lot of the infrastructure things, and he had questions about how much money was being put into downtown. Have not talked to him about this race, though. He's just filed this week. And then our mayor, Jack Heath, is running for election. He was the council president who was appointed mayor by the city council when Mayor Day left to go to work for the state. So this is Jack's first bid to be the mayor. There's no primary in this, winner take all. And right now, 4 people in.
The other election here that caught my eye was April Jackson. She's being challenged by a former president of the council. What's the background with that?
Vaughn Seegers is running in District 1, and that's going to be interesting. Vaughn was part of that council where there was a lot of dispute way back, 20, 25 years ago. Vaughn reappeared on the political scene here last year when she ran for school board. A very dignified person, well-spoken, very interesting, and it'll be interesting. That district has historically low turnout. Races seem to be won by just a handful of votes. April and Vaughn, it's going to be an interesting match.
And speaking of elections, we got election season in Bethany. Susan, what's the shape up there?
Yes, it is election season in Bethany. 6 candidates are running for 3 seats in Bethany Beach. There's a 7-member Bethany Beach Town Council, and like many of the boards of the councils in Delaware, and some of them in Maryland, the elections are staggered. So this year there are 6 candidates running for 3 seats, and those candidates are Keith Brothers, Russell Evans, Teresa Keel, incumbents Jerry Morris and Patrick Shepley, and also Mark Tanowitz. That election will be on September 9th, on Saturday, September 9th, and voters can vote in the town meeting room on Garfield Parkway in Bethany Beach. And then at 7 o'clock on Friday, August 25th, before the election, voters will have the opportunity to meet the candidates at a forum. And that forum will be moderated by none other than Darren McCann, who's the executive editor of my newspaper, Coastal Point. And we'll have the results of that election for you afterward, Don.
So also, Greg, we have this ribbon-cutting ceremony that's at the new city hall, which is now at the city headquarters. It used to be the old fire station, set for Friday afternoon. And it comes actually with a little controversy. I think we've talked about this before, but apparently there's some history in terms of a former Pinkerton detective who was told about involvement of the fire chief in the 1931 lynching of Matthew Williams. And I know that's come up particularly with some of the folks from the Truth, Racial Unity, Transformation, and Healing Committee. Not to mar the event, but should be noted. What do we expect from all of that and the history here? Yeah,
this is a new chapter for Salisbury. So this building, historically significant. It was a surplus property that was sold to a developer. They did a lot of work renovating it. My former employer, the Daily Times, went in there for, I guess, about 8 years they were in there, and then they closed that down. and it came back on the market. The city has elected to rent that property back. Lots of people saying, well, if they were going to have it anyway, why did they ever sell it? The developer did spend a lot of money renovating it and getting it in shape for business offices. The city's actually able to save, and I don't mean to be defending the city, but this is just a fact that they're able to save a lot of money. They were going to have to build a new public works building out on the west side of Salisbury, over by the old Campbell Soup plant. They don't have to do that now. They've got enough office space that they've saved, a couple $1 million on, or $1 million on that building. And it's going to give the city, they're going to have a meeting room there, as we have seen. If you're a watcher of PAC 14, when the county controls the government office building, the city is a tenant essentially. If the county has a meeting, the city has to meet, at the same time in a smaller conference room that's not conducive to public attendance. So they're going to have a place where they can have public meetings in that building. It's going to be a great community use for that building, and they want to show it off on Friday.
And finally, Susan, Millsboro, it's been the site of some serious traffic bottlenecks. There's also now the bypass, of course, under construction. What's the latest on how that project is going?
Yes, that's been going on for some time, Don. Some people say 20 years, some say for 30 years they've been talking about building a bypass around Millsboro. And finally, construction is underway. Delaware Governor John Carney was in Millsboro in March for the official groundbreaking, and now construction has begun on the $139 million project that was going to allow drivers, and especially those big, smelly poultry trucks carrying chickens, to make their way around Millsboro and not go through the quaint downtown where people sometimes have lunch outside at little tables, and those big trucks have a tendency to make them lose their appetites. During construction, drivers can expect 2 detours at Hollyville and Robinson Roads. Hollyville Road at Route 24 will be closed sometime during construction. I talked to DelDOT engineer George Pierce this week, and he said probably that'll happen around the first of the year. The drivers will be detoured around that road, and then Robinson Road will be off limits later as the project nears completion. The bypass includes a 2-lane connector road between routes 113 and 24 north of Millsboro. It will extend east toward Rehoboth Beach with a bridge over Fox Run Road, the Norfolk Southern Railroad, and the Millsboro Pond and Gravel Hill Road. The bridge will go over all of those. There will be one artery for traffic going in each direction. The bypass will be 2.8 miles long, and the speed limit will be 45 miles an hour. The nice thing about it is that it will have a biking and walking path running the entire length of the bypass, and they'll be separated from the heavy traffic with a vegetated buffer, a thick vegetated buffer. And that's all supposed to be finished by Memorial Day 2025, when I'm sure we can expect the governor to come back and a lot of other dignitaries for a big celebration and ribbon cutting. So the people who sit in that traffic in Millsboro, like I do many days of the week, will be really happy to see this bypass finally open.
We've been speaking with Greg Bassett, editor and general manager of the Salisbury Independent. On the phone with us is Susan Canfor, reporter for Coastal Point. Appreciate both of you joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.